Hello dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of the Daily Debate. I'm your host for tonight, Mohammed Abdelrahim. And Egyptians have participated in rallies following Eid al-Fitr prayers across various governorates to express their rejection of the plans to displace Palestinians and voice support for the political leadership that stands firmly in support of the Palestinian rights. And this is happening at a time when Israel's bombardment and aggression against Palestinian civilians in Gaza is continuing. Over 100 have been already killed on this Thursday. And since Israel resumed its aggression on Gaza on March the 18th, easily over 1,000 Palestinians, most of them women and children, have been killed. And this came after Israel violated the Jan 19th ceasefire agreement that was enforced by US President Donald Trump back then, and of course mediated also by Egypt and Qatar. The mediators, Egypt and Qatar, have presented a new ceasefire proposal that aims to bring calm to Gaza and allow the trickling in of urgently needed humanitarian aid. We don't know where this is going to go, but for now the assault is continuing. We'll be talking about Gaza, the Egyptian responsibilities there, the Egyptian mediation, the Egyptian diplomacy, and the situation in Gaza and in occupied Palestine, with our dear distinguished guest, Dr. Milad Momtaz, the international relations expert. A very good evening to you, Dr. Momtaz. Always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Dr. Momtaz, dear viewers, please allow us, as we always do in the program, first to watch a report. And this report about our main topic will highlight the gatherings and the rallies that were held here in Egypt in support of the Palestinian cause and rejection of any displacement from their lands.
Egypt's State Information Service said millions of Egyptians gathered in solidarity rallies after performing Eid al-Fitr prayer on Monday in hundreds of public squares, mosques and Islamic centers across all regions of Egypt's governorates. These gatherings occupied most of the designated prayer spaces, totaling 6,240 across all governorates. The State Information Service stated that demonstrators raised thousands of Palestinian and Egyptian flags, as well as banners in Arabic and English. They also chanted slogans during these rallies, which lasted for several hours after the conclusion of the Eid al-Fitr prayer. These demonstrations conveyed several direct political messages. First, full support for Egypt's political leadership in all its firm positions, rejecting the bloody aggression on Gaza and its unwavering solidarity with the Palestinian people and their rights since the beginning of the aggression. Second, a complete and steadfast rejection by the Egyptian people of any plans to displace Palestinian people from the land. Third, a complete condemnation of the genocide in Gaza and a call for the international community to take swift and decisive action against it. Fourth, an outright rejection of all attempts to eliminate the Palestinian cause, affirming that the issue can only be resolved when the Palestinian people attain their legitimate rights, foremost among them the establishment of an independent state on their land within the June 4th, 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital. Fifth, a demand for an immediate, total and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, putting an end to the humanitarian catastrophe caused by the ongoing genocide. The State Information Service concluded that millions of demonstrators carrying these clear and direct messages reaffirm the authenticity of the Egyptian people's steadfast support for the Palestinian cause, a stance that has remained unchanged for nearly 8 decades. It also underscores the complete harmony between the Egyptian people and the leadership, which has taken strong and resolute positions since the beginning of the aggression against Gaza. Egypt stands as a unified entity, its people and leadership remaining steadfast until the aggression ceases and all the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people are restored.
Welcome back, dear viewers. Many thanks to Manal Al-Ibyari and Khaled Abdelbari for this report. And we're back here in the studio with international relations expert Dr. Milad Momtaz. So, Dr. Momtaz, a lot is happening concerning Gaza and occupied Palestine in general. The evictions and the demolishing of Palestinian homes is also continuing in the West Bank. But I want to start first by the Israelis. How do you see indeed the unity of Egyptians in this cause? I mean, and the total cohesion between people and their leadership on this regard.
Actually, okay, what I saw about the rallies and the demonstrations across the country after the Eid al-Fitr prayer, I think that was so evident as a clear message to everyone in the world. And if I may focus on a single word that sums up everything about what happened on that day, I believe that would be the word commitment. And I mean it in two different ways. Firstly, the political commitment, and secondly, the public commitment. We're not only politically committed to advocating the Palestinian cause, it's about the Egyptian people as well. So when we discuss, the political leadership, it's not separated from the public opinion. No, both of them, and if I may actually, add something else, it's not about these two are not different things about when it comes to political leadership and the Egyptian people. It's one entity, as mentioned in the report. One thing, one highly, unified entity. So which I think that message was very clear on that day. We are very much committed to defending our brethren, the Palestinian people, not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank as well, and that's another crucial issue because, Israelis have been trying to take over the West Bank little by little through allowing those settlers to take over, different plots, gradually speaking, we're in a phased way for the last couple of years now. Okay, with the support coming from Washington, D.C., unfortunately. So once again, that word to me was very, very crucial, the word commitment. We have been committed for more than 8 decades now, and I think more than 8 decades now. Okay, so more than, 80 years? We talk about more than 80 years, okay? Yes. So a long time, we're nearing that, what, maybe, since 1930s, we're nearing 100 years now, supporting, the Palestinian cause wholeheartedly. So that commitment, once again, is meant to be like a message to everyone in the world that we're not going back on this, we're not retreating. We mean it, politically and publicly. And what I liked as well about the Egyptian people on that day, that, it wasn't only, elders, or adults. I saw kids as well. So those kids...
There is awareness.
Yeah, there is awareness, and when we see kids, little kids, and adolescents as well, I'm talking about teenagers as well, and maybe some people would say that, maybe they are not really aware of this, and actually, those little kids and teenagers, they are very much aware of this, and they feel it, and they wholeheartedly support the Egyptian leadership on this very specific matter.
Right.
And I think maybe we had a little talk about this, I think, before.
Yeah.
And maybe I told you that I heard, some young men, they were talking about, that they're very much willing to defend their country no matter what. So again, back to the word commitment, which I think that makes not only me, but that makes all of us very, very proud of our country.
Well, there is no question that there is awareness here in Egypt, and by the way, many would argue that there is more awareness now about the Palestinian issue and the Palestinian cause than any other time in history globally, and this is mainly because of the steadfastness of the Palestinian people, the brave people of Gaza, and mainly because of the incredible, unbelievable atrocities committed by Israel. I mean, Israel has exceeded really all the red lines. The question is, yes, there is awareness, yes, there is rejection, seemingly across the world, except in Tel Aviv and Washington, from what's happening in Gaza, but nothing is changing the situation on the ground. So what next? What about the newest ceasefire proposal that Egypt really worked hard for?
Let me first actually, clarify a very crucial point in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, what's been going on, it's not about October 7th. Of course, October 7th is very crucial. But that dates back, as I said, we're talking about 1930s and 1940s. And that's a deeply rooted issue. And we need to be very much aware of the fact that we need a long-standing, a lasting peace in the region. Yes, of course, okay, we've been seeing the atrocities brutally committed by the Israelis. And of course, okay, that the international community, once again, in my mind, has done nothing to stop this. And by the way, as well, which something I don't really like about, the condemnation. I really like, of course, this kind of...
It's better than silence.
Which is kind of okay. Which is kind of okay to me. However, condemnation, only condemnation, doesn't pay off. It doesn't do anything. Especially when we see the atrocities and the suffering, ongoing suffering of the Palestinian people. The international community should take action towards stopping, this ongoing bloodshed in Gaza.
What about more countries in the world moving in the path of South Africa? I mean, South Africa has really done good to the Palestinian cause. They themselves suffered, of course, from apartheid, from racism, from all types of brutal oppression, the South Africans, from the apartheid regime. And the fact that they took Israel to the International Court of Justice, and now the Israeli premier and his former defense minister are war crime suspects. I mean, this has done something to the cause. Speaking of the international community here, South Africa has done something.
If you don't mind, I have a very little something to be said here. I'm talking about the international community in the sense of international organization. Okay, South Africa, the
United Nations personnel themselves are being targeted and killed in Gaza.
Yeah, and I wouldn't disagree with this because we've been saying this. However, when talking about South Africa dared to challenge the whole situation. And they took, in my mind, a very courageous move. The United States of America has been trying to punish, South Africa for what they've been doing. And they've been threatening South Africa to withdraw the entire case. And that's, in my mind, has been something that what United States of America has been pressuring international organizations not to take any decisive action towards Israel. The United States of America has been trying to push, other organizations in the world to take or to reverse different things that should have been done. For example, when it comes to humanitarian aid, as you mentioned, we need more and more of this. And this has, the whole thing, the whole process has been halted now, since that thing resumed once again. And they need it very badly. And countries, and then back once again to the international community, what they have been doing. And I think everyone knows now it's more than 70 to 75% of humanitarian aid actually, comes from Egypt. You know, where is the international community in that sense? Where is it, okay, when it comes to that very specific matter of the humanitarian aid?
Threat of starvation.
Exactly, and that's a war crime, and everyone knows this, by the way. Starvation is a war crime, it's not allowed, and then back once again to the international law. Where is the international law in that context? We need to see it in action. With all due respect to the Human Rights Declaration that was issued in 1948, where is it? We need to see it in action. There are basic rights to those people, the Palestinian people. Okay, where is it? Okay, we've been talking about peace, we've been talking about human rights, but we have never actually seen this in action.
Because you have an entity that has no respect at all for international law, for humanitarian laws, for Geneva Conventions, I mean, absolutely no respect for nothing. And we're seeing what's happening in Syria, we're seeing what's happening in Lebanon. But I want to go back again to, so what is the solution now? I mean, US President Donald Trump enforced the Jan 19th agreement, but then obviously he himself and his administration retracted from that and told, and obviously the situation now is forget about that Jan 19th deal, we're going to have a new deal. If you want a deal, we're going to have a new deal, and the Americans giving the Israelis the green light. So now Egypt and Qatar and others are trying to help. They have offered some proposals. Hamas has agreed to some, has rejected some. Israel wants to go fully with the American plan. It's obvious, they've said it more than once. They want the Witkoff plan. They believe that, not the Jan 19th plan, but new plans, they want the release of all of the hostages, the disarmament of Hamas, and the Riviera plan.
Yeah.
And they've made an agency, they've created an agency to help in that regard. So where are we going? It's mediators are trying to help, but Israel is saying we're only going with the Trump plan. They see it as a golden opportunity.
Once again, in my mind, okay, that I totally believe in diplomacy. Strongly, I believe in diplomacy, because the other alternatives are very dangerous. Not only to, I'm talking about the Middle East, to the entire world. So, and Egypt, okay, believes in diplomacy, and she's been working very, very, very strongly using this kind of thing, the diplomatic, actually, measures to bring some sort of applicable solution to this whole matter. I totally agree with you. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. Okay, that that United States of America wants actually to do it their way, or in other words, the Israeli way rather, not the American way. The American way, we know it for sure that it's about economy and the transactional way of Mr. Donald Trump. And on the other hand, what I'm afraid of, and I think we talked before about this, about the new Middle East. That's what we are very much afraid of. Okay, are we actually, redrawing the map of the Middle East? Some powers, okay, namely when it comes to Israel, are they pursuing this? They want to do this?
I mean, the Israeli premier doesn't hide it. He keeps saying every day that we are creating a new, we are changing the face of the Middle East.
Based on the status quo, the fact, it's the fact, that we are, redrawing or reforming the whole thing our way, regardless of any other things that would seem to be, back once again to the international law, the different, sovereign states, if we actually need to discuss the word sovereignty in that context. So once again, my mind goes in the direction of diplomacy. Egypt actually wants to go in that direction, and Egypt has been doing this, and we're not going to give up on this. We need to try to convince, the people there in Washington that the only way is peace, the only way is diplomacy, the only way is to sit at the same table.
Well, they will respond to you, Dr. Momtaz, the Americans, I think, by saying we believe in peace. But it's, again, peace the Riviera way. It's peace.
That's not peace. The Riviera way, I'm sorry, that's not peace. That's submission. Okay, those people, they have their own rights, and everyone knows about this. And this takes us back, if you don't mind, to 1930s and 1940s once again, and what happened in 1948 over Nakba. Okay, are we in the process? Are we having another one? Unfortunately, okay, and the problem to me, and that's a huge issue to so many people in the world, that the Western people, the American people, who have been bragging about human rights, and that the world has changed now, and we are in the 21st century. And I'd like to ask them a simple question. Is that the 21st century, especially after what happened yesterday, the tariffs, imposed on almost everyone.
Liberation Day.
And actually, I did. And he calls it Liberation Day. And of course, that's not Liberation Day by all measures. It's, massive, drastic shifts, not only politically, but economically as well.
The way he was classifying the countries. I mean, you're going to get 35% tariffs, and you're going to get 30, you're going to get 20, you're going to get 10. It was amazing, the distinction between, anyway. So the Americans seemingly believe in peace in the
Riviera way side.
The Riviera way in the Middle East, and the Putin way in the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. I mean, seemingly, the Russian way and the Israeli way.
I totally agree with you, because the situation is very delicate nowadays, not only the Middle East, because we have said that it's across the world. However, the Middle East, it's much more delicate. And even to me, it's much more delicate than the situation in Ukraine, because you have so many powers involved in the situation in the Middle East. And the Middle East is what is very dangerous, because it might escalate at any time in a way that would get out of hand any time. That's very possible. And I think United States of America should keep that in mind, always in mind, that because actually, because I heard and everyone heard...
Iran is not dead yet.
Iran, the last couple of weeks, especially that we saw on TV, that they were trying to show off some of the latest underground facilities for nuclear weapons. So Iran is still there. And the people who bet a couple of weeks ago that, or a couple of months ago rather, that Iran is out of picture now, I think that's incorrect and inaccurate.
And some of their proxies are still working.
Still in action.
Even if they are being hit.
Yeah, still in action, and we don't want to get to that point, the point of no return regarding escalation, because that would be very dangerous.
Dr. Momtaz, you mentioned a very important point, that things could escalate at any given time, and we might not even know where the escalation would come from. I mean, I just look at what's happening in Syria as a terrible example of the weakness of the international community. I mean, everybody, France, UK, you name it, say that they are against what Israel is doing in Syria. The UN, everybody, the Arab League, the Arab capitals, but at the very end, Israel every day strikes targets in Syria and keeps saying, I'm going to hit anything that I feel is threatening me. So, I mean, they have given themselves the right to strike wherever they want if they feel there is a threat. So this is a very, very dangerous precedent. It's not going to end with Syria or Lebanon. I mean, this could expand, because whenever the Israelis believe or want to deceivingly convince others that they are under threat. I mean, this is a regime in Syria that said publicly, we're not even at the state of, we cannot even wage wars. I mean, and we don't intend to, and we want peace with all our neighbors. Yet, they are being hit day in and day out. And the precedent of saying, like, because I feel threatened, I'm going to strike, and I'm going to keep doing this as long as I feel threatened, well, God knows where this will end. So they could hit anywhere. The Israelis here I'm speaking about.
Yeah. Okay, well, again and again, you know, Israel has been given the green light to do whatever they want. You know, and that's very dangerous. They've been actually told that, okay, whatever you want to do. And the Israeli Prime Minister has found it a very, very important, you know, an opportunity to do whatever he wants. What we've been actually, you know, seeing in Syria is a direct violation of international law, as you said. And that's unmistakably dangerous, okay, because it does send out a very clear message to everyone in the world that, okay, that you can do the same thing, and you can get away, and you can come up with whatever pretext or whatever you say about, okay, the situation, when, as you said, okay, we are in danger. And as long as they would say so, I would go and do whatever I want. And I would destroy, and let me remind everyone, I would destroy the military infrastructure of an entire country. And that's what they've been doing.
So we're going to live like this for 4 years now? And maybe 8?
Yes,
because Mr. Trump has hinted, you know,
a third term.
Right. So what, is the world going to live like this for 4 or 8 years?
I think, okay, the world cannot stand this by all measures. And we just mentioned, you know, what happened yesterday, economically speaking. So we've been talking about the political situation.
Look what's happening in the markets today, like the Dow Jones and the big stock markets, a 3% decrease. That's a huge loss.
And we're talking about the first day
of the tariff war.
Yeah. We're talking about just the first day. Okay, so if we forget a little bit for now about the political situation, and we move to the economic situation, and we see that kind of not only turbulent, it's so hazy, you know, so foggy, the whole situation. And you see while driving, and you can't see, you know, in front of me while driving. And that's the situation right now. We are in a very dangerous situation, politically, economically.
As we speak now, Dr. Momtaz, the Dow Jones is 3.85% down, 1,600 points. The S&P 500, 4.66% down. That's the Nasdaq, the technology composite, is almost 6% down in 1 day. These are the biggest, of course, American markets. In Europe, it's 3% down, 2% down, but because Europe closes before the US starts, so wait until Europe starts tomorrow and see what happens. More losses, and Asia as well,
so,
probably.
As you're saying, you know, it's not the entire picture, the entire situation is so hazy, it's so foggy, and I think the world itself needs to figure out, okay, some measures to overcome this, because, okay, you know, we have to.
So you're saying the world cannot sustain this?
By all measures.
The first what? The first like 10 days, and then like he's been in office for what now? Less than 100 days.
Since Jan 20th.
Yeah, since Jan 20th. So that's less than 100 days. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So you're saying that almost 100 days. So you're saying that the world cannot sustain this for 4 or 8 years?
No, we can't. Okay, even let's say for 4 years. Okay, the world itself, you know, we've been following the news since yesterday, what happened at Liberation Day declaration, and I've been listening to the leaders around the world. Everyone is very much frustrated, to put it, you know, mildly, you know, very much frustrated, and they are very much afraid of what's next. Not what's next regarding Gaza. Of course, we get back to this.
What's next for Greenland?
And for the world. You know,
Canada.
For Canada, you know.
Mexico.
Everyone in the world nowadays, today, everyone actually is talking about this. So what's next? Where are we heading? Where are we going? Okay, yeah, Mr. Donald Trump sees himself as the leader of the entire world. And he wants actually, you know, to introduce new rules for the game. He wants everyone in the world to forget about the old game, or I may actually put it the system, old system, the international system, and he has been actually preaching a new system, a new world order.
A Trumpish order.
Exactly, Trumpish world order, economically, politically, you know, and he wants us to play according to his rules, his new measures and new techniques, which is, once again, the word danger itself is not actually enough to describe, you know, the coming weeks.
So the Egyptian diplomacy will continue. Egypt believes in peace. Egypt has a peace treaty with Israel. Egypt has been the voice for peace and wisdom. So it will continue, of course, to work with the U.S. administration. It will continue to try to convince the U.S. administration. How far have we gone in that regard, if at all?
Okay, first,
things have to change.
Yes. Okay, let me give a very crucial example. You know, the phone call that I think happened yesterday between President Sisi and President Trump. And I think that was a very crucial one. Why? Okay, because the leaders need to talk. And President Sisi, you know, that conveyed a certain message to President Trump that Egypt wants peace. Despite the fact that, okay, you know, the lies coming from Tel Aviv, that, you know, about, you know, what's happening in Sinai, you know, and, you know, the military measures taken by Egypt in Sinai, you know. So we need to clarify what we've been doing. Because they could easily say we feel threatened by this. They feel threatened 24/7, and they feel threatened from all their neighbors, and they feel threatened from everyone. Do they? I mean, do they, or is this just a pretext? Okay, once again, historically speaking, you know, they've been actually feeling like this, that we are always in danger. And you know, this kind of area that we live in, the Middle East, they don't want us. And they don't want us to live in
that was the rhetoric during the Nasser days. We all know this, and even before that. But this is no longer the case. I mean, the Arabs, for decades now, have proposed their initiative, land for peace.
And we have not only, you know, political relations, we have economic relations as well. But I think they've been really good at, you know, victimizing themselves. They want to feel always that they are the prey, you know. Everyone wants.
But does anyone really believe this rhetoric anymore?
You know, I think before October 7th, yeah, I think some people around the world, especially when it comes to Europe, they believed in this. I think now situation has changed. You know, a country like Spain, a country like Norway, I think they've been actually, you know, seeing the situation differently now. They see it clearly.
Ireland and others.
Okay, and Ireland, of course. Okay, I'm just giving some examples, namely when it comes to Europe. But I think when it comes to, as they call it, the global south, I think most countries support Palestine wholeheartedly, and they get it because they suffered as well. Like the example you gave a couple of minutes ago about South Africa and the apartheid.
Beautiful country.
Yeah. Most of African countries, okay, they suffered from colonial powers long time ago. So we get it, we feel it. But back to your question about peace, it's the word peace, we get what it means as Egyptians. We understand how valuable that word is, the true value of the word peace. We appreciate it. We are not an aggressive country.
We kept fighting from 48 to 73.
Yeah, and we don't want to actually get into this. I think maybe Egypt, I'm not exaggerating, but I believe maybe Egypt is one of, you know, the last countries in the world that would seek this, would want to go for this, because we are not an aggressive country, and we know about the consequences of the, you know, complications.
But we know very well how to defend.
Yeah, some people, they don't get that fact. Okay, yes, we are a peaceful country, but at the same time, we know very well how to defend ourselves.
Indeed. Dr. Momtaz, dear viewers, allow us to watch a second report, and then we'll come back and continue our discussion. And this report is about the foreign ministry's statements condemning Israel's announcement of the establishment of the so-called agency targeting the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza.
In a statement issued by the Egyptian Foreign Ministry regarding Israel's announcement of the establishment of an agency targeting the displacement of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip under the so-called voluntary departure policy, the ministry stated that This clearly reflects Cairo's awareness of the seriousness of recent Israeli moves, which go beyond simply recognizing new settlements in the West Bank, but extend to a more comprehensive plan aimed at reshaping the demographic and political map of the occupied Palestinian territories. This constitutes a flagrant violation of international law and legitimacy. Egypt's position on the Palestinian issue remains steadfast and consistent with its historical principles of supporting the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people and rejecting all attempts at forced displacement practiced by Israel under any pretext. Israel's announcement of the establishment of an agency targeting the displacement of Palestinians is an attempt to legitimize forced displacement, something Egypt categorically rejects. It is unreasonable to portray the departure of Palestinians as voluntary in light of the ongoing bombardment, stifling siege and systematic starvation policies, which makes this departure a full-fledged humanitarian crime. The Egyptian position clearly defines these practices, emphasizing that what is happening is nothing more than forced displacement, adding to the series of crimes committed by Israel against the Palestinians, which violates all international norms and conventions. He added that the world must assume its humanitarian responsibility toward the Palestinian people, and that organizations and agencies that support human rights must play their role and fulfill their humanitarian duty regarding the displacement and genocide of the defenseless Palestinian people.
All right, many thanks again, Manal Al-Ibari and Khalid Abdelbari for this report. We're back here with international relations expert, Dr. Milad Momtaz. Dr. Momtaz, I want to talk about two things that we haven't touched upon tonight, related, of course, to our topic. The inner scene in Israel, inside Israel, the pressures that the Israeli premier is facing and that his coalition is facing, and also the pressure inside Gaza, because we also saw inside Gaza last week something that is very, very rare. Some voices here and there expressing public rejection to Hamas's policies. So tell us about the inner scene, and of course Israel has made life in Gaza at the moment, I mean,
yeah,
almost impossible.
Of course.
I mean, even the aid is not trickling in. So tell us about the inner scene in Israel, in Gaza, and how will this affect the upcoming stage?
Inside Israel, I think it's very turbulent. You know, we've seen what happened with the chief of Shabak or Beit Shein. Okay, that first he had, you know, the Israeli Prime Minister, he had a candidate, okay, for this position, very crucial position. And let me actually, you know, explain a little bit about that position, or Shabak, or the Shin Bet. You know, one of the key reasons he removed, okay, the chief of the Shabak, that they released a report, investigation actually condemning the political leadership. Okay, and they
regarding
made it
October
very
7th,
clear,
of course,
yes,
incidents, yeah.
The political leadership was largely responsible for what happened on October 7th. And of course, the Israeli Prime Minister wanted to get rid of that man and to get rid of that investigation or the findings of the report. So he decided to replace him with another one.
He's gotten rid of so many of his entourage.
And, you know, let me put it in a different way. Because they've been bragging about, okay, it's the only democracy in the Middle East. They've been actually saying like this. You know, and I'd like to ask the Israeli Prime Minister, do you believe in democracy? Is that democracy? That's not democracy by all measures. And even he clashed with, okay, the Supreme Court over this.
Right.
And actually they suspended, you know, this decision. They said, okay, we're not replacing this man because actually, you know, he actually has condemned you. That's why you want to get rid of him. So they suspended the whole thing. And after he made that man, he was the chief of the naval forces, he said that, okay, no, I'm changing my mind. I don't want to actually that man. And that man himself was against his judicial measures because actually, we before October 7th, of course, we saw the demonstrations against the prime minister because of the massive judicial changes he still wants to introduce. So with that kind of candidate
and of course,
opposition,
he's also facing the corruption
charges,
trials,
so many charges.
the Haridim issue,
yes,
and of course the Khatufim issue, the issue
so
of
many
the hostages, and the families of the hostages are
pressuring,
and even resorting to Trump and accusing Netanyahu of not caring about them and of sacrificing them. So and of course the hawks like Smotrich and Ben Gvir will always cause problems. We've heard some opposition voices now in Israel calling for early elections, others saying Netanyahu is driving Israel to civil war. I mean, can really this
from inside,
can it be a major cause for change?
It's very possible. The only thing that worries me about this, that the situation of the American president. If he doesn't want that kind of change to happen, he wouldn't allow it to happen.
Okay.
And they have their own measures and they have their own techniques inside Israel to incite people maybe against him, or actually to get him to be fully in charge wholeheartedly. Because Netanyahu nowadays, he feels that as we said earlier, that he can do whatever he wants for the time being. So I think the internal situation is very delicate inside Israel, domestically speaking. And I think we need to consider another crucial factor, the economic situation. It is deteriorating in Israel. I know that he doesn't care that much because of the help coming from Washington, D.C., and he relies on this.
Because now the Americans, instead of giving money to Ukraine, the Trump administration will give to Tel Aviv and to Israel instead of Ukraine. And they will take money from the Ukrainians.
Definitely, yes.
What about the situation inside Gaza? Because Palestinians are really suffering. I mean, and they have had their share. I mean, I don't believe that anybody has suffered in in modern history more than the Palestinian civilians in Gaza.
The situation in Gaza and in the West Bank, if you don't mind, regarding the challenging, facing Hamas and the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yes.
I think because
Mr. Abbas is at an all-time low.
Popularity.
Yeah.
Okay. So I need actually to look at the situation, holistically. Okay, when it comes to Hamas and when it comes to the Palestinian Authority, I think, Israel benefits from this, from the friction, from actually, the differences between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. In my mind, unity is a must. Unity is a compulsory thing nowadays. We should forget about our own differences no matter what. Our political agendas should disappear for now, no matter what. No matter what we benefit from this or we have our own goals, we shouldn't actually limit this to our own goals. It's about the Palestinian cause itself. So what we saw and what we still see in Gaza, I think more or less, is a direct manifestation of what those people have been through.
For the humanitarian cause, and this is the last question because we only have a couple of minutes left, for the sake of humanity, do you think that Israel and Hamas, or Hamas and Israel, will accept either an Egyptian Qatari plan or an American plan or whichever plan of exchange of hostages and a permanent ceasefire? Do you think this is going to happen, or do you think this is far-fetched and we're going to continue, like the 1.5 years that we've been living through will be repeated again?
I think this will happen, but timing actually is very questionable in that regard. But this will happen sooner or later because Israel wants the hostages back. Hamas wants this to stop. to bring an end to this because of the popularity of the movement in Gaza. I think everyone, not only in the region, everyone across the world, they need to get to that point. So let's be optimistic about this. And actually, you know, I'd like to quote you on this word, the word for the sake of humanity. I think the situation nowadays in the world, okay, that are we forgetting about this word? Are we forgetting about the real value and the real meaning of the word humanity? I think those people in Gaza, they need to take a break. They need actually peace. And I think it's not far-fetching. It's not impossible. We have to get to that point as soon as possible.
Hopefully, inshallah. Thank you very much. Our dear distinguished guest, international relations expert, Dr. Milad Momtaz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear viewers, for watching the Daily Debate. Please stay with Nile TV.